Well, thanks for taking time to speak to us here. Well, many of these attacks that we just went through, some of the list of, initially appeared to be carried out by so-called lone wolves, but further examination and investigation revealed that there was a wider support network. So what can be done or what can governments do to combat this?
Good afternoon, Tox, and thank you for this invitation to talk about these recent horrific events. And of course, in what I'm about to say, one shouldn't downplay the horror and the damage caused to those directly affected. But what I do want to say is that we do need to keep a sense of proportion, and perhaps your comment there about lone wolves is a good cue for that. Yes, it's true, there's been an arrest, apparently another arrest linked to the Nice attacks. But let's not get too carried away. These look like micro plots. These seem pretty amateur, and they're horrific. And the nature of the violence is particularly brutal and unusual, actually. It's not an easy thing to go and behead someone, thank goodness. Most of us find that very difficult to contemplate doing. But it does seem to not have the sophistication of that horrific wave of more sophisticated and deadly attacks around about 2015 and 16 that you alluded to.
Okay. Well, France has experienced more of these deadly, gruesome attacks, it seems, than any other European countries. Why is that?
Well, there's a lot of complex reasons for that. I think part of it is to do with the nature of the French state tradition that seems to, going all the way back to the French Revolution, having got rid of the church, which was a pillar of the establishment, there's a very different attitude towards what secularization in everyday life means compared to, say, Great Britain across the Channel. And I think, that it does seem at one level that seems to be feeding into problems of social integration, and all the kind of problems that other European countries do share as well, radicalization, prisons, and so on and so forth. I think there is also, and one sees this in Macron's recent reactions, a little bit of a tendency to talk this up as an existential threat to the Republic. I think that's dangerous, being frank. I think that has some risk of fueling copycat.
Okay. What about, France and several other European countries have had these de-radicalization programs and they've worked with various degrees of success. Is that the right way forward? France has only just toughened its stance by trying to shut down things like outreach groups. Is that the way forward? Is there any country that's getting this right?
Well, it depends what you mean by getting it right. I'm afraid, rather downbeat assessment is we have to learn to live with this threat. And France particularly, actually, because this Islamist terrorism in France has been a danger since the mid-90s, long before, say, the UK. So turning the flame right off, if one thinks of it a bit like a kind of gas hob, is probably not very realistic in the long term. In the short term. In the long term, obviously, one hopes that these things will fade, just as leftist terrorism in the 70s and 80s once faded. But I don't think we should. De-radicalization programs are hard to assess in their effectiveness. But every one that works is likely to save lives. So we shouldn't take the odd exceptions, horrific as they may be, as a reason not to try.
Tim Wilson, Director of the Handel Centre for the Study of Terrorism and Political Violence. Thanks for joining us here on the programme.